The world tore itself apart in a flash of blinding white light. One moment, Anakin Skywalker and his Padawan, Ahsoka Tano, were aboard their starship, navigating the chaotic void of hyperspace. The next, they were tumbling through an unfamiliar sky, the roar of their ship's engines replaced by the whisper of the wind. They crashed, not with the shriek of metal on rock, but with a strange, soft thud into a dense emerald-green forest. The air smelled different here, thick with the scent of damp earth, unknown flowers, and something else. Something ancient and powerful. It was not the Force as they knew it, but it hummed with a similar energy, a vibrant life that pulsed in every leaf and stone. Anakin was the first to stir, his instincts as a general and a Jedi screaming that they were in danger. He checked on Ahsoka, who was already pushing herself up, her montrals twitching as she sensed the strange new world around them. Their ship was gone, vanished, as if it had never existed. They were alone, armed only with their lightsabers and their connection to the Force. All around them, towering trees with silver bark reached for a sky dotted with 2 moons. Strange, colorful birds with crystal-like feathers flitted between branches, their songs echoing in the quiet woods. This was not a planet on any Republic star chart. This was somewhere else entirely, a place untouched by the galactic war they had just left behind. Ahsoka ignited her Shoto lightsaber, its green blade casting an eerie glow on the alien foliage. "Master, where are we?" she asked, her voice a mixture of awe and apprehension. The Force felt muted, yet also chaotically alive, like a song sung in a language she couldn't understand. Anakin ignited his own blue blade, standing back to back with his Padawan. He felt it too. The familiar currents of the Force were there, but they were interwoven with this new, wild energy. It was like trying to hear a single instrument in a massive, untamed orchestra. It was beautiful, but it was also disorienting and potentially very dangerous. They had no map, no allies, and no way of knowing what lay beyond the shadows of the forest. Every rustle of leaves, every distant cry of an unknown creature set them on edge. They were Jedi, trained to be calm and centered, but the sheer unknown was a heavy weight. They had faced droids, Sith, and pirates, but this was a different kind of challenge. This was a world that did not follow the rules they understood. As they took their first tentative steps into the woods, they did not know that their arrival had sent ripples through this magical land, ripples that would soon lead them to a young mage who was on a journey of his own. Their destinies were about to intertwine in a way no one could have predicted. Their journey through the mysterious forest led them to a dusty road, a welcome sign of civilization. It was here they first saw him, a young boy with brown hair, wearing simple traveler's clothes and carrying a wooden staff. He looked ordinary, yet Anakin and Ahsoka could sense something remarkable about him. The strange energy of this world, the one they had felt in the air and trees, was concentrated within this boy. He was Rudeus Greyrat, a powerful mage who was just beginning to understand the scope of his own abilities. He was traveling with his companions, the fiery swordswoman Eris and the quiet warrior Rudeus. They stopped and stared at the 2 strangers with their glowing swords. The meeting was tense at first. Rudeus, using his knowledge of multiple languages, tried to speak with them, but their basic tongue was alien to him. It was the Force that bridged the gap. Anakin reached out, not with words but with feelings, of peace, of being lost, of seeking help. Rudeus, accustomed to wordless incantational magic, felt the Jedi's intent. He saw images in his mind, a ship, stars, a war. He cautiously lowered his staff, understanding that these were not enemies. He saw their confusion and their strength, a calm power that was unlike any magic he had ever encountered. He felt a strange kinship with them, 2 powerful beings lost in a world not their own. The contrast between them was striking. Anakin and Ahsoka were warriors of discipline and control. Their power, the Force, came from within, an inner sea of tranquility they had to master. Rudeus's power was different. He chanted words, drew symbols, and pulled energy from the world around him. He could create fireballs, raise walls of earth, and heal wounds with a string of spoken commands. To Anakin, it seemed like a chaotic and dangerous way to wield power. To Rudeus, the Jedi's ability to move objects with their minds and sense feelings without a single word was nothing short of miraculous, a silent magic he couldn't comprehend. Despite their differences, a bond began to form. Rudeus saw in Anakin and Ahsoka a wisdom and a sense of duty that he admired. He offered them shelter and food, promising to help them understand this new world. Anakin, ever protective of his Padawan, was wary, but saw the sincerity in the boy's eyes. Ahsoka, ever curious, was fascinated by Rudeus and his magic. She saw a fellow student, someone eager to learn and grow. This first encounter was the beginning of an unlikely alliance, a meeting of worlds that would forever change the destinies of a Jedi Knight, his Padawan, and a young mage on a quest to become a better man. As they traveled together, the differences between Jedi philosophy and the ways of this new world became clear. Anakin tried to explain the Force to Rudeus, describing it as a living energy that connects all things, a balance between a light side and a dark side. He spoke of peace, self-control, and acting without passion or anger. For Rudeus, who had lived a life driven by strong emotions and desires, this was a difficult concept to grasp. In his world, power was often taken, not given. Strength was used to protect what you loved, and sometimes that meant fighting with everything you had, including your anger. The local people they met had their own strong beliefs and traditions. They worshipped gods, feared demons, and lived by codes of honor that often involved swift and brutal justice. When Anakin used a Jedi mind trick to peacefully resolve a conflict with some aggressive bandits, the locals were suspicious. They saw it as a form of mental manipulation, a dishonorable trick. They believed strength should be shown openly, with a sword or a spell, not with a quiet wave of the hand. Ahsoka, who was still learning the nuances of Jedi teachings herself, found herself questioning if their ways were always the right ones in every situation. Yet their Jedi teachings also began to have a positive influence. When Rudeus struggled with a powerful spell, Anakin taught him to find his center, to calm his mind, and let the energy flow through him instead of trying to force it. Rudeus discovered that by using this Jedi meditation technique, his magic became more controlled, more potent. He learned that true power wasn't just about shouting incantations, it was about focus and inner peace. Ahsoka, in turn, learned from Rudeus. She saw how he used his magic to help people in practical ways, creating clean water or mending broken tools, and realized that the Force could be more than just a tool for combat. The blend of Force and magic created something new and incredible. Ahsoka started to experiment, using the Force to guide her movements while Eris taught her swordsmanship, creating a fighting style that was both elegant and unpredictable. Anakin learned to sense the flow of mana, the magical energy of this world, and could anticipate spells before they were even cast. They were learning from each other, their beliefs and abilities merging. The Jedi code of peace and justice began to inspire Rudeus and his friends, while the raw, passionate spirit of this world taught Anakin and Ahsoka that sometimes rules needed to be bent to protect the ones you love. Their journey soon led them to a great challenge, a sprawling, abandoned mansion rumored to be haunted. Villagers told stories of ghostly apparitions and a malevolent spirit that preyed on anyone who dared to enter. For Rudeus, it was a chance to prove his growing magical abilities. For Anakin and Ahsoka, it was a test of their Jedi skills against a supernatural threat unlike any Sith Lord they had ever faced. The mansion was dark and decaying, its halls filled with an oppressive silence that even the Force struggled to penetrate. A deep sorrow and anger lingered in the air, the psychic residue of a tragedy that had occurred long ago. Inside, they faced their fears. The spirit of the mansion created illusions, forcing each of them to confront painful memories. Anakin saw visions of his mother, Shmi, calling out to him from the desert sands of Tatooine, her voice filled with pain. He was forced to battle the anger and guilt that he kept buried deep inside. Ahsoka saw shadows of the Clone Wars, reliving moments where she had lost friends and felt helpless. But it was Rudeus who faced the most personal trial. The spirit took the form of his past self from his old world, a lonely, bitter man filled with regret. This phantom taunted him, telling him he would always be a failure, that he could never truly escape who he once was. The adventure also brought new emotional complexities. Eris, with her fierce loyalty and fiery temper, found herself drawn to Anakin's quiet strength and confidence. At the same time, Rudeus was grappling with his own deep feelings for Eris, creating a difficult and unspoken love triangle. Anakin, bound by the Jedi code that forbade attachments, gently guided Eris away, explaining that his path was one of duty, not romance. He saw the pain in her eyes but knew it was necessary. This experience forced Anakin to reflect on his own hidden love for Padme, making him realize how difficult the Jedi path truly was, especially when you cared so deeply for others. In the end, it was their combined strengths that allowed them to overcome the darkness. Rudeus, with newfound courage inspired by his friends, confronted the illusion of his past self and accepted his flaws, resolving to keep moving forward. Ahsoka used the Force to find the source of the mansion's pain, the restless spirit of a child who had died alone. Instead of fighting it, she reached out with compassion, soothing its anger and helping it find peace. Anakin protected them from the mansion's physical threats, his lightsaber a beacon of light in the suffocating darkness. They emerged from the haunted mansion changed, their bonds stronger and their understanding of loss, love, and sacrifice deepened. After their trials in the haunted mansion, the group was no longer just a collection of travelers. They had become, well, a family. For a while, they settled in a small, peaceful town, building a life together. Anakin, surprisingly, discovered a sense of purpose in the simple things. He put his mechanical skills to use, helping the townspeople by fixing carts and building irrigation systems. In these quiet acts of creation and service, he found a joy he hadn't felt since his days as a boy in Mos Espa. Anakin became a father figure to Rudeus, offering guidance not just in combat, but in life itself. He taught the young mage about responsibility, about honor, and, the importance of protecting the innocent. Meanwhile, Ahsoka found her own place within this new family. She connected deeply with Rudeus's companions, especially Sylphiette and Roxy, his future wives. With Sylphie, there was a quiet understanding. Two powerful individuals who often felt like outsiders. With Roxy, Ahsoka found a mentor in magic, and in return, she shared her knowledge of galactic history and tactics. Together, these three women formed a powerful trio, supporting each other through hardship. Ahsoka watched as Rudeus's family grew, and she felt a sense of belonging she hadn't known since leaving the Jedi Temple. This life was simpler, but filled with a genuine love that, honestly, the strict Jedi Order had always discouraged. Still, this peace was, fragile. The shadows of their pasts and the dangers of this world were never far away. Anakin was haunted by prophetic nightmares, visions of fire, betrayal, and a dark armored figure. He feared the dark side wasn't something he'd left behind in his old galaxy, but a part of him he could never fully escape. He confided in Rudeus, who listened with a wisdom beyond his years. Rudeus, in turn, shared his own greatest fear, the influence of the manipulative man-god, Hitogami, who sought to control his destiny for his own dark purposes. Together, they found strength to face these fears. So, when news came that a village had been attacked by monstrous creatures, they didn't hesitate to act. They fought side by side, a seamless unit of magic, lightsabers, and warrior skill. Anakin and Ahsoka's Jedi training, Rudeus's devastating magic, and the combat prowess of Eris and Rudeus made them a truly formidable force for good. In a world that often seemed dark, they were a beacon of hope. But with every victory, they understood that a greater conflict was looming, a battle that would demand a terrible price from their newfound family. Section 6. The Final Stand, a hero's ultimate sacrifice. The darkness they had feared finally arrived. A mysterious plague began to spread, corrupting the children of the land, turning them into mindless puppets of a sinister will. Anakin and Ahsoka recognized the pattern immediately. It was the work of the dark side, a foul energy that twisted life and fed on despair. They soon discovered the source. A powerful dark magician was creating twisted creatures, spawn, that were nearly identical to the monstrous abominations created by Sith alchemy. This magician was a pawn of Hitogami, the man-god, who sought to plunge the world into chaos and ensure his own victory in a cosmic game of fate. The final battle was waged on a desolate, storm-racked plain. Anakin, Ahsoka, and their family stood against an army of spawn and the corrupted children, their hearts heavy with the knowledge that they had to fight those they wanted to save. Anakin and Ahsoka were a whirlwind of blue and green light, their lightsabers cutting through the darkness. But the spawn were relentless, their numbers endless. The dark magician was powerful, his magic fueled by Hitogami's influence, and he targeted Rudeus specifically, knowing he was the key to the world's future. He knew that if Rudeus died, all hope would be lost. Rudeus fought with a power he had never shown before. He unleashed cataclysmic spells, his voice ringing with authority as he commanded the very elements to obey him. But it was not enough. Hitogami's power was too great, his influence too deep. In the heat of the battle, Eris was gravely wounded, and Rudeus was faced with an impossible choice. Hitogami appeared to him in a vision, offering him a deal surrender, and his family would be spared. But Rudeus, remembering the lessons of courage and selflessness from Anakin, knew he could not give in to the darkness. He had to choose his own path. In a final, desperate act of love and sacrifice, Rudeus gathered every last ounce of his mana. He looked at his family, at Anakin and Ahsoka, who had shown him the meaning of being a hero, and he smiled. He unleashed a spell of unimaginable power, a pure white light that vaporized the Spawn army and severed Hitogami's connection to their world permanently. But the cost was everything. The spell consumed him, his body turning to dust in the wind. Rudeus Greyrat, the mage who had been given a second chance at life, had sacrificed himself to save everyone he loved. His final act was not one of a fated pawn, but of a true hero. Section 7. A Legacy of Light. Echoes of the Future. In the devastating silence that followed Rudeus' sacrifice, the world felt broken. The sky cleared, the storm subsided, and the corrupted children were freed from the dark influence, but the victory felt hollow. Anakin Skywalker stood over the spot where Rudeus had vanished, his heart heavy with a familiar grief. He had seen too much loss, too many friends fall in the name of a greater good. He had failed to save his mother. He had failed to save so many Jedi. And now, he had failed to save the boy who had become like a son to him. The weight of this loss pushed him dangerously close to the edge of the dark side he fought so hard to control. It was Ahsoka who pulled him back from the brink. She placed a hand on his shoulder, her own eyes filled with tears. "He made a choice, Master," she said softly. "He chose to save his family. He chose his own destiny." Her words were a lifeline. She reminded him of the Jedi's true purpose, not to prevent death, which is a natural part of life, but to protect the light and inspire hope. Rudeus had not been a victim of fate. He had been the master of his own end. His sacrifice was not a tragedy, but a legacy. It was a powerful testament to the love he had for his family and his world. They looked at Rudeus' surviving family, Eris, Sylphie, Roxy, and his children. They were heartbroken, but they were not broken. In their eyes, Anakin and Ahsoka saw Rudeus' spirit living on. They saw his courage, his kindness, and his unwavering determination. The legacy of a person is not just in what they achieve, but in the love they leave behind and the lives they touch. Rudeus had rewritten his own story, transforming from a lost soul into a legendary hero whose actions would echo through generations. His was a story of hope, proving that anyone, no matter their past, can choose to be a force for good. Anakin and Ahsoka realized their purpose in this world was not to find a way home, but to help protect the future that Rudeus had died to create. They were no longer just lost Jedi, they were guardians of a legacy. They understood that the Force had not brought them here by accident. It had brought them here to learn, to teach, and to witness the incredible power of a human heart. They would stay, not as generals or warriors, but as mentors and protectors, ensuring that the light Rudeus had ignited would never be extinguished. His sacrifice had given them a new mission, a new family, and a new hope. Section 8. The Path Forward. A Generation's Hope. Years passed. The world healed, and the memory of the final battle faded into legend. Anakin and Ahsoka remained, becoming wise and respected figures in the community that Rudeus had built. They did not try to rebuild the Jedi Order, but instead they shared its most important teachings: compassion, mindfulness, and the courage to stand up for what is right. They watched as Rudeus' children grew up, each one carrying a piece of their father's spirit. They were a new generation, born into a world free from the shadow of the man-god, a world their father had paid for with his life. Anakin, now older and wiser, found a peace he had never known. The anger and fear that had once plagued him were soothed by the love of his adopted family and the simple purpose of his new life. He taught the children mechanics and how to feel the world around them, not just with magic, but with their hearts. He told them stories of the stars, of a republic, and a war fought for freedom, teaching them the value of peace. He became the father he always wished he could be, his legacy not one of a prophesied chosen one, but of a kind and patient teacher. Ahsoka became a guide for the young magic users. She blended Jedi principles with their magical training, teaching them to control their emotions and use their power responsibly. She trained Rudeus's daughter Lara, who had inherited her father's immense magical potential, and her mother Eris's fiery spirit. Ahsoka saw a reflection of her younger self in Lara, headstrong, talented, and eager to prove herself. She guided Lara not just as a mentor but as an older sister, ensuring that she understood that true strength comes from balance and compassion, not just raw power. The future looked bright. The children, armed with their father's legacy, their mother's strength, and the wisdom of two Jedi from another world, were ready to face any challenge. They would build upon the foundations their parents had laid, creating a world that was safer and more just. The story of Anakin, Ahsoka, and Rudeus became a tale told to inspire future generations. A story about how different worlds and different beliefs could come together to create something beautiful and strong. It was a message of hope, proving that the future is not written in stone, but is forged every day by the choices we make and the love we share. Section 9. Behind the Veiled Destiny, Choice, and Unseen Forces. Looking back on their incredible journey, it becomes clear that this story was a grand tapestry woven with powerful themes. The most central of these was the eternal question of fate versus free will. Rudeus began his second life believing he was a pawn in the games of a higher being, his path manipulated by the man-god, Hidogami. He felt trapped by destiny. However, the arrival of Anakin and Ahsoka introduced a new philosophy into his world, the Jedi belief that your choices define you. Anakin, himself a figure of prophecy, struggled with the weight of being the chosen one, and he taught Rudeus that even if a path is laid out for you, you can choose how you walk it. The fusion of the Force and magic was another core element of their tale. The Force was presented as an internal spiritual energy, a power that required discipline, balance, and a connection to all life. Magic, in contrast, was an external force, a power drawn from the world itself through knowledge, incantations, and raw talent. At first, these two systems seemed incompatible, but as the characters learned from one another, they discovered the two were merely different languages describing the same fundamental energy of the universe. True power was found not in choosing one over the other, but in understanding the harmony between the inner self and the outer world. The story was also a powerful exploration of family. For Anakin, who lost his mother and was separated from the love of his life, and for Ahsoka, who left her Jedi family, finding a new one in this world was a healing journey. It showed that family is not just about blood, but about the bonds you forge through shared struggle, loyalty, and love. Rudeus' sprawling, unconventional family stood as a testament to this, a beacon of light against the encroaching darkness. Their unity was their greatest weapon, proving that love and connection are more powerful than any dark god or destructive spell. Ultimately, this epic crossover delivers an uplifting message that resonates across worlds. It tells us that our past does not have to define our future. Rudeus was able to overcome the regrets of his former life to become a hero. Anakin was able to find peace and purpose far from the war that threatened to consume him. They teach us that destiny is not a cage, but a canvas. We have the power to rewrite our stories, choose light over darkness, and build a legacy of hope. The enduring power of love, sacrifice, and family is the true magic and the true force that connects us all.